Rico, I mean, they just can't keep anything simple, can they? They just can't.
No.
When did you see the announcement?
I was at the high school game at Wayne State, and it's one where you got to look to make sure it's a legit account that it comes from.
The Onion.
Right. It's like it's not somebody who just made up something on Photoshop. Like, this is legitimate. And then I saw Angelique put it out there, and all the beat writers put it out there, and I'm like, this is happening.
Can you pull up the statement for me?
I can do that.
I'd like you to do that. And again, we're going to get to the Lions because I think there's a lot to talk about with them as well. But the Michigan quarterback situation, here's how I'm going to do this. I know some of you get very upset. Then stop making headlines. And for those of you cult members who want to minimize it and say it's nothing and say that it's not a big deal, okay, then here's what I'll tell you. If it's nothing, explain the anatomy of your only loss last year. It's because of your quarterback handling obsession. You lost the state game because J.J. McCarthy, period. Full stop. So my point to you is, after winning the Big Ten, after going to the playoff, and after having a spring and summer to make a determination on who your quarterback is, I think it's asinine to execute a con. And what I mean is, if you really believe that this staff doesn't know who they want to start, then I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Period. Leaders lead. Leaders are paid to make the tough decisions. They're paid to take the criticism, take the fallout, and then move it forward. Whether it's in sports, business, whatever it may be. Leaders lead. This is nonsense. So I'm going to have Rico read this statement from Harbaugh, and then I'm going to ask you two questions. One of them is choose your own adventure. Tell me how the story ends. You don't like Sparty talking about it. Tell me how the story ends. But the other one is this. Let's say JJ goes out and lights up Hawaii. Now, I watched Hawaii deep into the early morning of Sunday. To say they are bad would be an affront to all bad football teams. They lost 63-10 to Vanderbilt, and Vandy looked like Alabama. So if JJ...
I can't believe you watched Hawaii
I did.
that much.
I did because...
You can watch Hawaii all night long, Mike. It's not going to make up for what Scott Frost did. We'll get into that
We're
later.
going to get to that at 4 as Scott Frost fertilized my lawn. But my point is, this is the year he gets it wrong. Let's say JJ lights up Hawaii and you don't start him. He's looking at you with the, what do I got to do? Let's say JJ lights up Hawaii and you do start. Cade's going to look at you and go, wait, I lost my gig because he lit up a high school team?
He threw for 6 touchdowns.
It's total nonsense. Read the statement, and then I want to get into this because, honestly, it's just the type of noise you don't need as a Big Ten champion and you don't need as you start a season. It's unnecessary. Read this. This is the Saturday. By the way, why release a statement? That's the other thing. Meritocracy, best players play. End. Microphone, verbal medium.
There's a reason for that. Scott Frost.
Listen, just get it out, all right? Just get it out. Step up and make it happen.
We have made a decision. Both quarterbacks have played great, done everything they could have, and in every way to win the starting job. Coming out of camp, I just feel like we have two quarterbacks, Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy, that feel very confident that we can win a championship with either of those behind the center. It's a great thing for our team, but there's only one ball and only one quarterback can be out there at a time. So we're not ready to say who that starting quarterback is, but the decision has been made that Cade McNamara will start the opener against Colorado State, and J.J. McCarthy will start the second ball game against Hawaii. And then after week 2, we'll make a decision going into week 3 on the starter and the backup. Quote, James Harbaugh.
Now, today, courtesy of the Harbaugh presser, which kind of sounded a little bit like a trip to the Vatican, where we were talking about Psalms and Solomon and Bible verses.
Kurt Franklin there?
It was very weird. There's a good chance we'll play both quarterbacks in this game, the next game, and maybe the third game. Who knows? Guys, this is super simple to me. It really is. This is con artistry. That's all this is. They know who they want to play. If they don't know by now who they want to play, then I question their leadership. It's a bottom line game. And you can say it's nothing. You can say it'll work itself out. You can even delude yourself into saying, well, it's an NFL mindset. I mean, Harbaugh basically came out today and said, no, it's not NFL, it's Bible. Go hear that quote. That's a real interesting one. The point is, this sounds like a way to placate. It sounds like a way to try to get into the season and delay a transfer as long as possible. That's really what it is. Who are we kidding? If you're Cade McNamara, you've done nothing wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. They haven't lost a game since the Georgia game. They haven't played. Went through spring, went through summer. People who've been at practice say that Cade has looked outstanding. And let's face it, when the chips were down last year and you had to score at Michigan State, you had to score at Penn State, who was in the game? It was Cade. JJ wasn't around to do any of the throwing. So now you're going to open the season with one of the worst non-conference schedules anyone's ever seen, and then you're going to determine who your starter is based on those games? No, you're not. You know who the starter is.
Okay, but in all fairness, you probably get better. There's no probably. There's better competition in practice.
Correct.
Than you will get going up against any one of those defenses. You could play whoever the third string quarterback is. I don't know his name. You could put him in against UConn and get the exact same stats. And what that means, what have you learned?
Nothing. So my point is, when you call up, and I'll give you the number, 248-539-9797, if you think it's much ado about nothing, then why haven't they named the starter? If you think it's a non-issue and that this is a real quarterback competition, answer this question for me. What would take place in any of these three games where Colorado State, you're favored by 28? The Hawaii game, with no exaggeration, I think you could be favored by 50. And the UConn game will settle somewhere in the 30s. What determination would you make that would change your opinion on who you're starting? Think this over. And part two is simple. How does the story end? You're a Michigan fan. You know your team. You love your team. You watch your team. How's it end? Who's the quarterback? Because what it sounds like is the silly statement on Saturday. It's been universally criticized by anyone not affiliated with the program. Who are we kidding? If you're a cult member, you just drink the sand because you don't know any better. But the reality is Harbaugh came out today and it goes same as it ever was. They may play both guys all three games. I just wouldn't sign up for it again. And I'll be honest, the defense last year allowed you to do some of this stuff. The defense last year was elite. You had bookend first-round pick edge rushers. That's something that only Alabama and Georgia had last year. Mm-hmm. Factual. The defense is not going to be that this year. And I've already seen it cost you a game. Yeah, I could take you through the play-by-play of the fourth quarter of the Michigan State game, and it cost you because you continued to want to force JJ on the field. Why? I have my own theories, but I'll keep those to myself. The point is, I want to know what you think is going to happen. And I want you to tell me what you're telling Cade McNamara if you bench him because of what JJ did against Hawaii, or vice versa. What do you think you're telling JJ and his family if he lights it up for 3 1/4 and 4 touchdowns and he still isn't the starter? You don't get to have your cake and eat it too. This is real life.